The worrying thing a desperate old narcissist does when he runs out of energy. Have you ever seen someone who used to be so full of life, so in control, so powerful, suddenly slow down? They start forgetting things. They get tired more easily. Their energy fades, and instead of gracefully accepting it, they fight it hard. This is the moment many narcissists dread most. Not death itself, but the slow loss of power that comes with aging and exhaustion. Because for a narcissist, energy isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's psychological. It's their fuel. And when that fuel runs low, they panic. In this video, we're going to explore what happens when an old narcissist starts running out of energy. We'll uncover the 8 most common behaviors they fall into when they can no longer maintain control the way they used to. You'll learn why losing energy feels like losing identity to a narcissist, how they try to compensate when they can't keep up anymore, the manipulative tactics they use when desperation kicks in, what survivors should expect during this final stage of the narcissist's life, and how to protect yourself while staying human. So if you've ever wondered what happens to a narcissist as he gets older, if you've seen a narcissistic parent, partner, or friend begin to decline and felt confused by their behavior, or if you're someone who grew up under a narcissist's influence and now sees them aging, and you want to understand what's really happening, then keep watching. Because today, we're stepping into the hidden world of the desperate old narcissist and revealing the 8 things he does when he finally runs out of energy. Let's start by understanding what drives a narcissist behavior, because once you see what lies beneath the surface, you'll begin to understand why losing energy hits them so deeply. The core of narcissism, a life built on illusion. At first glance, narcissists appear confident, charming, even invincible. That's why so many people fall for them, romantically, professionally, or even within family dynamics. But beneath that shiny exterior lies a fragile ego, desperate for validation and terrified of being exposed. Psychologists define narcissism as a spectrum, from mild traits like self-centeredness and occasional manipulation, all the way to full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, which involves chronic grandiosity, lack of empathy, and an insatiable need for admiration. Narcissists aren't born, they're made. Most psychologists agree that narcissistic tendencies often develop in childhood as a result of emotional neglect, excessive praise, or conditional love. In other words, narcissism isn't about arrogance, it's about protection. It's a defense mechanism built to survive environments where love was only given under certain conditions. That's why narcissists crave attention, not because they love themselves too much, but because they secretly hate themselves. Their entire identity is built on external validation. Without it, they feel empty, invisible, and unworthy. So when you interact with a narcissist, you're not dealing with someone who wants to hurt you. You're dealing with someone who's hurting themselves. And that changes everything. Because once you understand that narcissism is rooted in pain, not power, you begin to see a path forward, one where you don't have to fight fire with fire. You can respond with light, with clarity, with compassion. But there's one thing that no amount of manipulation, charm, or control can protect them from: time. And when time starts running out, the narcissist world begins to fall apart, especially when he runs out of energy. Now let's dive into the 8 things a desperate old narcissist does when he can no longer keep up the facade. 1. He starts clinging to the past like a lifeline. As his energy fades, the narcissist becomes obsessed with reliving past glories. He constantly talks about the good old days, how respected he was, how powerful he was, how admired he was. He exaggerates stories, rewrites history, and insists that everyone around him acknowledge how amazing he used to be. Why? Because he's trying to hold on to the version of himself that still matters, the energetic, charismatic, dominant person he used to be. Now when he looks in the mirror, he doesn't recognize that person anymore, and that terrifies him. So he clings to the past like it's the last piece of solid ground in a world that's slipping away. What this looks like: constantly bringing up past achievements, refusing to talk about the present or future, becoming defensive when reminded of current limitations, surrounding himself with reminders of youth, photos, trophies, memorabilia. This is not nostalgia. This is desperation. 2. He tries to reconnect with old sources of supply. When he can no longer rely on his own energy to manipulate and control, the narcissist turns to old relationships. He might call up ex-lovers, estranged siblings, or long-lost friends, people who once gave him attention, validation, or admiration. He may say things like, "I never stopped thinking about you. We had something special. I wish I'd appreciated you more back then." But make no mistake, these attempts at reconciliation are not about genuine connection. They're about filling the void. They're about finding someone, anyone who will remind him that he still matters. What this looks like: sudden messages or calls after years of silence, over-the-top flattery and affection, attempts to reignite old relationships or rivalries, creating drama to regain emotional control. For survivors, this can be confusing. You might wonder, is he changing? Is he sorry? But more often than not, it's just another attempt to feed his ego. And once he realizes you won't give him what he wants, he moves on. 3. He projects his weakness onto others. When he can't deny his own decline, the narcissist starts blaming others for his weakness. He accuses people of not helping him enough, of not respecting him, of not giving him the admiration he deserves. He may say things like, "You never supported me. Everyone turned against me. If you loved me, you'd do more for me." Projection is a classic narcissistic tactic, and it becomes stronger as he weakens. Because admitting that he's declining would mean admitting vulnerability, and that's something he cannot allow. What this looks like: blaming others for his health problems, accusing family members of abandoning him, claiming he's misunderstood or mistreated, turning small inconveniences into major betrayals. This projection serves two purposes. It protects his ego. 2. It forces others to focus on his suffering rather than their own. 3. He demands constant attention and care. As his energy fades, the narcissist becomes increasingly dependent. He expects people to cater to his needs. He demands constant care, reassurance, and attention. He may exaggerate his symptoms, play up his weaknesses, or act helpless, even when he's perfectly capable of doing things himself. His message is clear: "Look at me. I'm suffering. You owe me." This is not about illness. It's about maintaining control through dependency. By making others responsible for his well-being, he keeps them emotionally tied to him. And that gives him power, even in weakness. What this looks like: calling multiple times a day for reassurance, making dramatic claims about health issues, refusing help unless it comes from specific people, using guilt to get what he wants. "No one cares about me." Again, this is not about genuine need. It's about emotional leverage. 5. He retreats into paranoia. As reality becomes harder to control, the narcissist begins to suspect betrayal everywhere. He believes people are talking behind his back, plotting against him, ignoring him, abandoning him. He may isolate himself, stop answering calls, or become overly suspicious of caregivers, doctors, or even family members. Why? Because he knows he's losing control, and he blames others for it. Paranoia is his way of making sense of a world that no longer revolves around him. What this looks like: refusing medical treatment without explanation, accusing loved ones of conspiring against him, talking about being watched or being betrayed, withdrawing completely from social interaction. This paranoia can be heartbreaking to witness, especially for those who genuinely care. But it's also dangerous, because it cuts off any real support he might need. 6. He becomes emotionally regressive. As his body ages and his energy fades, the narcissist often regresses emotionally. He acts like a child. He throws tantrums. He cries over small things. He demands constant reassurance. He behaves in ways that seem exaggerated or inappropriate for his age. This regression is tied to early trauma. Many narcissists develop their personality structure as children, either through neglect, abuse, or excessive pressure to perform for love. As they age and lose the ability to maintain their adult persona, they revert back to the behaviors that once helped them survive. What this looks like: exaggerated emotional reactions, dependency on specific people for comfort, childlike language or behavior, refusing to take responsibility for actions to those around him. This can be exhausting and emotionally draining, because caring for a grown man who acts like a wounded child is incredibly difficult. 7. He makes grand gestures of redemption. Sometimes, occasionally, a narcissist tries to make amends. He apologizes, sometimes sincerely. He reaches out to someone he hurt. He says things like, "I wish I'd been better to you. I know I wasn't easy to deal with. Thank you for being here." These moments are rare, but they do happen. And for survivors, they can bring both closure and confusion, because seeing a narcissist express regret feels surreal. It's like watching a storm finally settle, like hearing a voice that's always shouted finally whisper. And for a brief moment, you see the human beneath the mask, the person he could have been, had he chosen differently. What this looks like: unexpected apologies, expressions of gratitude, attempts to reconnect with estranged loved ones, small gestures of kindness or appreciation. But again, these moments rarely lead to lasting change, because redemption requires consistent action, humility, and accountability, things most narcissists are incapable of sustaining. Still, they matter, because they offer survivors a glimpse of healing, even if it comes too late. 8. He collapses under the weight of his own ego. Eventually, the narcissist reaches a breaking point. He can no longer maintain the illusion. He can no longer manipulate, charm, or control. His energy is gone. His defenses are down. And for the first time, he sees himself clearly, not as a king, not as a legend, not as a victim, just as a man, tired, alone, human. And that realization crushes him. This is what therapists call a narcissistic collapse. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's silent. A man who once commanded attention now sits in quiet despair. A woman who once demanded admiration now stares at the ceiling, wondering if anyone truly loved her. This collapse is painful for the narcissist and for those around him, because it's the moment the mask finally slips, and nothing is left underneath. What this looks like: deep depression, withdrawal from relationships, emotional shutdown, acceptance of failure and loneliness. There's no recovery from this, only surrender. And even then, it's often too late. Now that we've explored the 8 things a desperate old narcissist does when he runs out of energy, let's shift focus to those who have lived through his manipulation and abuse. What survivors should know about this final chapter. If you've lived through a narcissistic relationship, whether romantic, familial, or professional, seeing him age or face mortality can bring up a storm of emotions: relief, anger, sadness, even guilt. You might feel conflicted. Part of you wants justice, another part hopes he finds peace, and yet another part just wants to move on. Here's what psychology tells us. 1. Don't expect apologies. Most narcissists will never admit fault, even at the end. Their need to protect their ego overrides their ability to take responsibility. 2. Set boundaries around grief. If you choose to be present during his final days, do so with clear boundaries. Don't let him pull you back into old patterns of guilt or manipulation. 3. Allow yourself to feel. It's okay to feel relief. It's okay to feel sadness. You're allowed to grieve the person he could have been, while also protecting yourself from the person he was. 4. Focus on healing. Use this time as a turning point in your own journey. Let go of the need for validation from him. Focus on rebuilding your sense of self-worth. 5. Don't wait for closure. Closure comes from within, not from the narcissist. Work on forgiving yourself, reclaiming your story, and finding peace independent of his actions. These steps won't erase the pain, but they will help you reclaim your power, because ultimately, the narcissist's darkest hour is not yours. It's your time to heal, Your time to rise. Your time to remember who you are, beyond his shadow. Finally, let's discuss the broader implications of this topic, what it teaches us about narcissism, aging, and the human condition. Final thoughts. The end of the narcissist reign. We often think of narcissists as untouchable, immune to consequences, immune to time. But time catches up with everyone. And when it does, the narcissist faces the one truth he can never outrun. He is human, flawed, finite, vulnerable. And in that moment, the mask slips, the game stops, the manipulation fades, and all that remains is the quiet echo of a life built on illusion. But for those who survived him, this is not the end. It's the beginning of freedom, of healing, of reclaiming your life. So if you're watching this and wondering what happens when a narcissist finally runs out of energy, know this: his end is not your end. It's your rebirth. And that's where your story truly begins. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more videos that help empaths and sensitive souls navigate life with strength, wisdom, and heart. Remember, you are not alone. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are powerful. And your story doesn't end with him. Until next time, stay grounded, stay aware, and keep shining.